I'm okay if I don't become the ultimate version of what I could become, but I won't tolerate not trying.
The people that win are not the smartest. It is always the people that keep at it. It's the people that persevere.
It does not matter who you are today. The only thing that matters is who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there.
Need motivation? Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 rules to success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Give it your all.
Have a vision of the person you could become, and to reach the pearly gates, as it were, see who you could have been, contrast it with who you actually are, and be disappointed by the gap between them. And I love chasing that. I think it's a beautiful chase. But what I hope you guys will do, if you ever find yourself at the pearly gates disappointed in how much farther you could have gone, to simply ask one question of yourself every day. Did I give it my all today? Doesn't mean you're always going to win. Yeah. If your life is a series of yes, I did, you've won. You've won. Guys, the struggle is guaranteed. The struggle is guaranteed. The struggle is guaranteed. The success is not. And like the thing that I beg you guys is to have the guts to fail at something that you love. And when you are on the mud, on your face, and people are laughing, the I told you so's are coming out, that you remember one simple fact. You loved what you were doing, and you left it out on the field. What the else is there? Legitimately, like I'm getting emotional. What the else is there? What more can you ask of yourself than to really try, to really say, I give a shit about this? That's the life to live. That's the life. Like to say, I care about this. It matters. It gives me purpose. I'm going to fight for this. This is a group of people I want to serve. And I'm going to go all the way out every day. And look, you're not going to hit it every day. There's going to be days where you're off. There's going to be days where you're weak. Weak. But if that day, instead of bullshitting yourself, instead of saying I wasn't weak today, what are you talking about? If that day you own it, and you say, yeah, I was weak today, and I'm not going to be weak tomorrow, but I'm not afraid to face that. I'm not afraid to accept that I'm not perfect. I'm not afraid to look in the mirror and say today was a bad day, that I didn't make myself proud today, but that shouldn't diminish who you are. It shouldn't diminish your view of yourself. Why? Because it wouldn't serve you. Because if you beat yourself up today, you make it harder for you to be rad tomorrow. It's a game that has to be seen in total. It's not a game where you can take a snapshot. And this is like what I want you guys to understand. In any one moment, I've looked like a fool so many times I can't count. But when I look at my life in 10-year chunks, I'm freaked out by what I've accomplished. So I'm okay if I don't become the ultimate version of what I could become, but I won't tolerate not trying.
Rule number 2, know your identity.
My identity is wrapped up in if I promise myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That's big to me. Even if nobody's looking, that's really big. And so I know how I want to feel about myself when I say that. And so I adhere to it just because of that. And I cannot tell you that desire to feel a certain way about myself because I've constructed an identity. I've told other people what my identity is. And I want to feel that, like, I want to be impressed with myself. That's the reality. I want to feel that, like, pride when I say it, or when I'm all alone and I'm thinking about who I am and how I'm acting. That feeling to me is so intoxicating that I have to act in accordance with that. That probably comes up in my life, it's gotta be close to 10 times a day, because I'll want to relax. I'll wanna let off the gas pedal. I'll have just been doing something and I'll be like exhausted and bored with it, and I'll wanna go like do something fun, and I'll be like, no, like I could literally just go do this and no one would know. And yeah, I would know. And so that keeps me in check. So identity drives behavior. That's the big one.
Rule number 3, be the learner.
At moments where I'm bone tired, I have that clarity. And when you have the clarity and you know where you're trying to go, then it becomes clear about what you have to train at. What are the things that you have to train into yourself? But the only way to do that is to have a self-esteem that's built entirely around being the learner. Why? Because you get the shot to the head, the nugget of gold at your feet. It says, you suck at this. That hurts, man. That's hard to own. It's hard to face. And there's 1,000 voices in your mind telling you all the reasons why it's somebody else's fault and it's not your fault. But the reality is, the moment you do that, you're giving away your power, because you're not looking for a way to change. You're not looking for a way to shape your skill set. Remember, between where you are and where you want to go, it is a gap of skill set. Now, I'm not a born entrepreneur. I don't have any entrepreneurial instincts by birth. When I first got involved in business, I remember my only contributions to our conference calls, you're gonna think I'm kidding, and this is unfortunately very true. The only contribution I would make to a conference call was to say goodbye. And I remember I used to get so excited. Here it comes, we're wrapping up, this is gonna be amazing, it's my chance, goodbye. And I got to say something. But at that time, I just needed to learn. I needed to pay attention. I needed to see where I was weak. And the constant barrage on my self-esteem that I wasn't the smartest person in the room, that I wasn't right very often, it was unrelenting. And I remember saying to myself, all right, man, you got 2 choices. You can leave, like you don't need to be here. You don't need to want to become an entrepreneur. That doesn't have to be your life. You can go back to selling video games, which is what I was doing. You can go back to selling video games. You could go back to teaching. Like, if that's where you're gonna be happy, then go do that. But if you really want to become extraordinary, you've got to separate your self-esteem from being wrong. You have to. Because otherwise, you're never going to see the opportunity to get better. And so I decided that I was going to start valuing myself. My entire value was gonna be predicated on being willing to admit that I was wrong, on being willing to stare nakedly at my inadequacies. I was not going to hide from them. I was not going to run. I wasn't going to try to do some fancy story. I was just going to own it. Yo, you suck at this, man. You suck at this, but you're just not good at it yet. And once that word yet is lingering out there, suddenly it becomes a question of time allocation. So you know you could get good at it, but it's going to take a lot of time and energy. So what are the skills that you really want to get good at? And that goes back to that clarity. What do I need to get good at in order to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? It does not need to be something that somebody else values. It needs to be the thing I have chosen to value, that I've built into my life, this worship around getting good at that thing. I didn't have to get good at helping others build mindset. That didn't have to be my life. But that's what I've chosen. That's what I want to do. And so I build this tremendous amount of value into it. And because I value myself for pursuing that, and I value myself for admitting when I'm wrong, and I value myself for staring nakedly at my inadequacies, every day I'm getting better.
Rule number 4, believe in yourself.
Once you have your goal, then you can work backwards to what you need to do in order to accomplish that goal. And that is the chasm of adaptation. It's the acquisition of skill set. It's getting better at something. It's becoming capable of something that you weren't capable of before. But that change, the fear of the unknown, is the thing that paralyzes people. So I want to go back to what I said earlier. You all meet minimum requirements. And I really mean that. I don't want you to wonder if somebody believes in you. I believe in you. I've seen a lot of people reach for the stars and fail. I've seen a lot of people reach for the stars and make it. I have a pretty good sense of what it takes for people to get there. So when I say that you guys meet minimum requirements, I really mean it. And I want that to liberate you. But what I wanted to liberate you to do is to figure out why it's not enough. Because I didn't just change anyone's life with that phrase, but I should have. That should be all you need to know. But there are other things stuck in your perception of who you are, in the lens by which you view this world, that convinces you that you can't make it.
All right, what is up, everybody? I want to talk to you about my good friend Evan Carmichael's book right here, Built to Serve. I'm actually going to read you a section. There are some amazing parts of this book, and this is one of my favorite. It's under the title, Comfort is the Enemy of Greatness. And it goes, when you're comfortable, you don't get strong. When you have plenty of fresh air and no adversity, you crumble as soon as something gets hard. It's rarely the kids of rich parents who go on to do great things, even though they have all the advantages that money, connections, and education can buy. Why is that? Because they're too comfortable. People who are comfortable don't create great things. There it is, Evan Carmichael, bringing the heat in his book, Built to Serve. Get a copy.
Rule number 5, keep at it.
Humans are designed to adapt. We are the ultimate adaptation machine. We can learn anything we set our minds to. Now, you may not want to learn it, and that's good evidence that this is not a fascination that's going to turn into a passion. This is something that you should avoid. But if you can answer the question affirmatively that, do I want to know more about this than anyone else in the world? If the answer is yes, that's a path to go down. Because once you're saying yes to that, then you're going to go in and learn the things you need to do to become extraordinary. And if you're willing to put in the effort, while it may take you longer than somebody else, you will get there in the end if you keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. Because the people that win are not the smartest. It is always the people that keep at it. It's the people that persevere. That's just truth, man. Now, being smart helps, yay. I really wish I was a lot smarter. But I know that I'll beat 99.999% of the people that play regardless of level of intelligence, because most people just drop out.
Rule number 6, be willing to pay the price.
Remember that just 15 years earlier, I got out of bed solely out of shame. My mother thought I was going to fail. My father-in-law did not want me to marry his daughter. Brick by brick, day after day, I transformed myself. It was not an uncovering of something that was real and already there. It was simply acknowledging I am a hopelessly average human, but humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. So I can change. I can become whatever I want. And I just became single-mindedly focused on how much I could grow. And now that I was getting value and self-esteem out of growing instead of out of being, everything in my life changed. So 15 years later, my father-in-law visits the US for the first time since we started Quest. And I'm taking him around the production floor. And there's 300,000 square feet, there's 800 employees, the bars are coming off the line at 1.5 million a day. People are coming up and thanking me for having a job and for the way that we run the company and all that. And I turned to him and I said, Andreas, do you remember asking me how I was going to take care of your daughter? And he said, yes. And I said, how am I doing? And he just burst into tears. And the punchline of that story, it does not matter who you are today. The only thing that matters is who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there.
Rule number 7, want it.
Motivation. You have to want it. It has to be something that you are on fire for. Literally, as you were describing it, I was like, oh my God, I would study so much. I would ace this exam. You have no idea. I would absolutely kill this. Because that's my identity. So why is it that you want to do this? Is it that you want to be the best? Is it just the promotion? If it's the promotion and this is just about money, what does that mean? Why does it matter? What are you going to do with the money? Are you the first person in your family to be promoted that far? Are you setting an example for your son or your daughter? Like when you attach it to something that really matters, like for me, it's like, I'm going to dominate. Wherever you put me, I'm going to dominate. That's just my thing. My identity is so wrapped up in outworking everybody else. I love it. So I love going hard, learning, putting more time and energy. My thing is part of my identity. You ready for the secret? Part of my identity is like, I will work so hard at something that people will just assume I'm naturally gifted at that thing, because the alternative to believe that I'm spending 40 hours a week on top of my full-time job to study for that thing, people, they won't believe that I would put that kind of energy and effort into something. But I will. And so to them, it just looks like magic. Now, I love that shit so much that it becomes very easy for me to use identity statements. Okay? So we've got motivation. We're getting amped about it. It matters to us for some reason. Now we've got identity statements. I'm the type of person that works so hard, people assume it's magic. I'm the type of person that works so hard at something that people just assume I'm naturally talented, okay? I love that. I love saying that about myself. I love knowing that it's true. I love knowing that I can trust myself to put in the time and the energy to own it, because I'm the type of person that knows information is really power. And that if I go in and I work and I get better at this thing, then I'm going to be able to outperform other people, right? Skills have utility.
Rule number 8, don't compare yourself.
This is one of the most common reframes ever. Worth, being good enough, being right, being smart. Guys, these are very fragile ways to think of yourself. And I understand the temptation because it feels really good when you do feel worthy. It feels really good when you are right. It feels really good to actually be the best at something. But the truth of the world, just the truth of the world, it is this way. You're always going to encounter somebody better, stronger, faster, more pious, more worthy, more whatever. So if you live in a world of comparison, it will rob you of your joy. Even people who, like Michael Jordan, if you put him right now up against most rookies, the rookie's gonna win. Rookie's younger, faster, hungrier. Michael's just lost a step, he's gotten old. So if he were trying to make his life about his glory in that period, let's say he lives 80 years. If he's living for the glory of 20 years, that's the most heartbreaking life I can imagine. So you're going to move in and out of these moments where you are a badass to where you're not a badass. Don't value yourself for that. Value yourself for something that is anti-fragile. Being smart, being right, being good, being worthy, they are very fragile things because sometimes you won't be. It simply is this way. Valuing yourself for being a learner, on the other hand, for trying, that's anti-fragile. Because the more somebody attacks you for being dumb, but you build your self-esteem around learning, the first thing I think when someone says I'm dumb is awesome. In what way? Because I view myself in these 10-year windows. And I know the same people that were laughing at me when I became an entrepreneur, knew nothing about it, and I was who's the kid in the server room, and I was the only one with an office that had no windows, and there were like 9 other computers in my room, and nobody knew who I was, and the only contribution I made to phone calls was to say goodbye at the end of a conference call. I'm not kidding. 10 years later, I own $1 billion business. Woo! Who the is laughing now? But it only worked because I didn't mind looking stupid. It only worked because I wasn't asking myself whether I was worthy or whether I deserved it. I just asked myself, am I leaving it all out on the field? Yes or no? Am I learning? Yes or no? And if I'm not, I didn't go, oh, that makes me a bad person. I went, I need to change my actions to get a different result. And once you start thinking like that, and you literally value yourself for how hard you're trying, how much you're learning, how willing you are to accept when you fall on your face, that you don't try to get out from under it or campaign to convince people that you're better than you really are. Own where you're at. Because once you're real about it, then you can make progress. But if your energy cycles go to bullshit yourself, you'll never get out of it.
Rule number 9, execute big.
Elon Musk is going to terraform Mars. That's all I need to say to myself. Elon Musk is going to terraform Mars. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm thinking really small. So pushing yourself to go to that next level, that next level, that next level until it's so absurdly big that that's not even true. I was gonna say so absurdly big that it terrifies you, but it's really like the big thinking comes down to what do you really want to accomplish? If I said whatever you were gonna try, you were gonna succeed at, it's a very famous question. I am sadly not thinking of this on the spot. If you knew that you were gonna succeed at whatever you tried, what would you try? So for me, like, my whole thing is I want to pull people out of the matrix. Who's done that the best? Not pulled them out of the matrix, but used the path that I think is the right path, which is narrative. So who's done narrative the best? Disney. Okay. Disney is a massive company. They've been in business for like 75 or 80 years. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Okay, cool. I'm going to outperform them. Since they've done it the best and I have no interest in being second, want to be first. Okay, there it is. Now that's not terraforming Mars by any stretch of the imagination, but that's pretty big. So thinking like that, I think, is important because one, you're gonna be able to rally people, you're gonna be able to get them excited, but you've gotta back all the way back from a 75, 80 year time horizon to what do I do today? So that's where I find that people break down. It's not that they're not able to dream big, they can dream big, but they can't execute big. And that's where I think people really fall down. And the one key to all of this, to being able to execute big, to allow yourself to believe that you can execute against that, is to believe that you can learn anything. So I was just telling somebody last night that what was I gonna say? I was so blanked because the person I was with, I'll just say this because my mind is like sketching out. If you guys don't know Tony Gonzalez, the football player, he's amazing. Check him out. That dude's mindset, absolutely incredible. I invited him on the show, in fact. That's who I was with last night, if you're wondering why I'm bringing this up. And he said that he didn't want to until he conquers the next part of his life. And I thought, Jesus, for somebody that's done what he's done, to be like, it's not enough yet, that's pretty interesting. So executing big, the key is that you've got to believe that you can do anything you set your mind to. You've got to believe that you're able to execute against all of that stuff, that you can learn that. And that really is the key, to go into something that's completely unknown. And as I was telling Tony last night, if I were to tomorrow wake up and have Disney Studio at my control, I think I would up. So I know that I have to become someone new in order to execute against that vision. And it's your willingness to become that person, to accept that you're not that person right now today, but that you can become that person. That's the important part.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is focus on cellular energy.
Cellular energy is going to be what you need to focus on. And I can't tell you how much I hate that I have to pay attention to my body in order to achieve the things that I want to achieve. I want to just be able to work around the clock, but I know if I try to do that, I won't be cognitively optimized and I won't have the energy that I need. So when I go give talks, oftentimes I'll end up after the talk answering questions. And my record is I once stood in a hallway with 50 people around me, answering questions without even stopping to pee for 11 and a half hours. Now, by the end of it, people were like, how the hell are you doing this? And the answer was, because there are two types of energy. There's psychological energy, right? You're exhausted, right? Imagine it. Oh, you know those days. You're wiped out. But you got that one song. You put that song on and you still got a little ass shaking left in you. And you can just feel it. It changes your mood. You're ready to get up. You're ready to get down. That's psychological energy, okay? We can actually make you suddenly feel like you have this burst of energy. The other part, the one that won't let you down, is real cellular energy. Now, within your cells are a whole bunch of these things called mitochondria. Mitochondria are separate little organelles, okay? They have their own DNA. They are not you, but they are inside your cells, and they are the power plant of your body. And if you don't do things to push your mitochondria to stay razor sharp, productive, to proliferate, you just won't be able to generate the energy. This is why I'm always telling people, you are having a biological experience. Whatever this is, your body may have been given to you by God, fair enough, but He gave you a body. And now you have to deal with the realities of going through life in a body that if you're not eating right, you're not exercising, you will not be able to generate the ATP, which makes you feel like you can go and conquer mountains and do whatever you want. But if you really don't have the energy, then that's a nightmare. This goes back to being tired is a unique ring of hell. It is just absolutely miserable. So you're gonna have to get your diet right, which is probably the number one thing to get your energy levels up at a cellular level. You gotta get your diet right. And then to really push things, you wanna start exercising. And then another one, going back to one of our early questions, cold exposure is another way to get your vascular system going, to get your ability to generate ATP up high, because cold exposure has a tremendous impact on your mitochondria. Okay, so getting that right, I think, is going to solve a lot of problems for you. And you may even need to go and get your thyroid levels checked. Like, there's really could be a lot going on biologically. So to put it all into the language of a habit, you're going to go to bed early, however early you need to go to bed to not set an alarm. Number 2, when you wake up, don't eat. You're going to work out fasted, okay? I would highly recommend that you lift weights rather than doing a bunch of cardio. And then next, meditation. You'll be shocked how far that goes. And then we want to get some cold exposure in there if we can. That would be a really great way to get you going. And as far as diet goes, making sure when you do eat and try to do intermittent fasting so that you have, call it a 16-hour fasting window and an 8-hour feeding window. And so you're going to push your first meal back to post-workout. And then when you eat, you're going to make it whole foods. So you're going to be eating green leafy vegetables, you're going to be eating meat. If you eat meat, that's absolutely fine. No processed foods, if you can avoid it. You should be less than 10% of what you eat should be processed. Obviously, 0 is the ideal. But realistically, if you can make less than 10% of it processed, you're going to be golden. If you do that all the time, you are going to feel like $1,000,000. You just cannot overestimate how big of a deal sleep, diet, and exercise make. It is life-changing, and it's the one thing most people aren't willing to do. But if you want cellular energy, that's the habit you're going to have to get in.
Now I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you just watch a video and you get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That's not good enough, Believe Nation. We need to take some action. But when you watch a video, you get motivated and you create a specific plan of action, that number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of you following through. And when you publicly commit to other people, like leaving a comment down in this video, your number jumps to 95% chance of you actually following through on the plan you set for yourself. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
You're going to set rules in your life. I don't care if you've got motivation. I don't care if I have motivation. I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less every day, no matter what, no excuses. But Tom, your leg has snapped off at the knee. I don't care. I'm getting out of bed in 10 minutes or less. But Tom, you only got 45 minutes of sleep. I don't care. I'm getting out of bed in 10 minutes or less. I have a hard and fast rule. It's what I call a bright line. There are bright lines in my life. There is no excuse to lay in bed. There is no rationalization. Nothing matters. It does not matter. Has it been 10 minutes since you woke up? Then you got to get your ass out of bed. It's that simple. And every day, if I miss, and when I miss by seconds. But if I miss, I confess to my wife. If I miss, I'll even confess on camera and let people know, hey, I didn't get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Now keep in mind, it was probably 10 minutes and 1 second. But even then, if the clock has ticked over to the 11th minute, I got to wrap myself out because I don't tolerate that in myself. I have that hard and fast rule. It is a bright line and I act in accordance. Now, the reason that I had to use bright lines is I used to, in my mid-20s, I used to lay in bed for 4 and 5 hours a day, every day, if I could get away with it.
Now, if you don't know this quote, live by it. One can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery over oneself. That's Da Vinci. Da Vinci did amazing things with his life. I wanted to do equally amazing things with mine. And if that's the game that we're playing, if I can construct my belief system, if I can choose at any moment to believe something that's more empowering than I was believing the moment before, and that will actually find its way into my actions, allow me to do things that I couldn't do the moment before, then it's like that moment in The Matrix where Neo realizes he knows Kung Fu. And that's like, as funny as that is, that's how I think about life. To me, the very fundamental purpose of life is to find out how many skills I can acquire that have utility, and then put that utility to the test in service of something greater than myself. How many skills can I acquire that have utility, put that utility to the test in service of something greater than myself? That is, for me, the purpose of life. Now, I don't actually want to know Kung Fu. That is not the mission that I'm here to live. But I knew that I had to identify my mission. So what was going to be my mission? Mother Teresa has an amazing quote. Nobody will act for the many, but people will act for the one. And that really struck me, because I realized they were right. I was looking at this global pandemic of ill health, and I wasn't moving into action, but thinking about my mom and my sister, or the uncle I had who ate himself to death when I was 12 years old. That made me want to act.
Can you describe what you mean by going into the darkness? I can. All right, so going into the darkness, I think everybody is motivated by two different things. One, you have the beautiful things in your life, the things that are going well, the things that you're grateful for, the things you're moving towards instead of away. You have a compelling vision of your future. It's something that you're very excited about. All of those things are the beautiful things. Now, the flip side of that equation are the things that, it's people that doubt you, it's haters, it's things you're moving away from, it's fear-based things, it's something that you absolutely refuse to let happen. So one that is incredibly potent to me are the people that want to see me fail. So it's very different than people who just think you're going to fail. I actually don't have a lot of aggression towards people like that, but people that want me to fail, those people I have a lot of aggression for. And I find in very acute moments, the darkness serves you better. In very acute moments. Now, the light, the things you're moving towards, the things that are beautiful, the things that you're grateful for, all of that is the only winning strategy long term, because the darkness becomes corrosive. You start to become bitter. You start to be angry. You stop being optimistic. You stop seeing things in a way that's empowering and positive. And I mean, just thinking about the deep limbic system, when it gets inflamed, you perceive things as negative. I think negativity stops people from making progress. There's a whole host of neurological reasons and sort of mindset reasons why I think that being negative over the long run becomes very, very detrimental and holds you back. But from an acute standpoint, they've done studies on this. If you want someone to be able to endure more pain, the surest way to get people to endure more pain is to let them get angry, let them be aggressive. And in doing that, people are able to withstand in the clinical trials. I'll say that it's probably more than this, but in clinical trials, they're able to withstand 30% more pain. So just straight being able to take more pain, anger and aggression lets you do 30% more. So that's why I think in acute ways, in short-term bursts, that the darkness. Hey Tom, what's your best advice for someone just graduating from college with no sense of direction and no job? Go get lost, go explore, go do things that interest you, dive deep. Don't prematurely optimize. So this is something that I think is missing in people's lives today. If you don't know what you want to pursue, then don't start pursuing something with all your might. It is very okay to be dirt poor. It is very okay to be broke. Like, in that early period of your life, your early 20s, man, it is so okay to not be making a lot of money. As long as you're able to eat, and you would be startled by how little money that takes, it's okay. Go out, discover, play, bumble around, do whatever it takes to begin to discover the things that really give you energy. That will serve you incredibly well, because feeling alive, that's the name of the game.
There's a gap between who people are and what they tell you they want to accomplish. Because in the beginning, I hired everyone.
Right.
Not because I'm super smart and thought, hey, I should. There was no one else, right? Like we had the smallest handful of people ever. And so I started doing the interviewing. As I was doing it, I start realizing, God, these guys tell me they want to do something amazing with their life. And if you just listen, like, wow, yeah, like I want to be on your team, dude. You're going to do amazing stuff. And then you realize they can't execute on that dream. So
why can't they?
they don't have the mindset yet. Like you could do an entire podcast series on how to get the mindset, but I'll just use Carol Dweck and her amazing book, Mindset.
I have it up there too on the shelf somewhere.
I'm sure. Such a good book. I see Simon Sinek up there, who is also very influential in us. Yeah. And she says some people either believe they're as smart as they're ever going to be, and that's that. And so they're going to be ego protective, and they're going to, try to thwart anything that makes them feel like they're not the smartest person or whatever. And then there's people with a growth mindset, and they realize I'm not the smartest person, and I'm certainly not as smart as I could be. Yeah. So even if I am the smartest person that ever lived, I could get a little bit smarter. And so when they're confronted with contradictory information, they learn.
And I remember this was a piece of advice that my father-in-law gave me that I promptly ignored, and don't worry, I've since apologized to him and very much adopted this mentality. But he said the most important thing in business is to know more about the topic than anybody else in the room. And if you don't see an echo of that in my preparation for the interviews, and I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, that was something that when he said it, I am so sad to report that it did not hit me, but for whatever weird reason, it really stuck with me. And it was one of those things that I thought about and thought about and thought about. And then it finally manifested itself in me realizing that to get good at anything, whether that's business, whether that's interviewing, it really is that level of preparation. It is about going above and beyond to get good at something. And I was thinking about this last night at the event, and there's always like 1,000 questions that I get asked about how you build a business, whatever your dream is, how do you go and actually manifest it? And the honest answer to everything is get better. Get better. And I've had really talented artists begin reaching out to me on Instagram, because obviously that's a huge focus for us. And the next phase is going to be getting writers, getting artists, bringing them together, creating amazing comic books in phase one. And they'll have like a really small following, and they'll say, what am I doing wrong? What's the secret? And the truth is, even though they're really good, they've got to get a lot better. And when you can be world class, but admit that you're not yet undeniable, because there's unfortunately a lot of people that are world class. Like, think about it. You make it to the Olympics. Your whole life, you've been busting your ass. You finally make it. You're one of the best in your country. Truly a world class player. But you come in 7th, 8th. You haven't gotten to the point where you're so good that you can't be ignored. And that, in today's world where social media rules everything and anyone can get on there, create noise, you've got to find a way to cut through the clutter. And the way to cut through the clutter, there's more, and I will recommend Perennial Seller by our boy Ryan Holiday. Really interesting book, really excited. I think we've booked him for November. That'll be a lot of fun. But in his book, he talks about several of the other things you're going to do. But I'll say that the most important one is to get so good that you cannot be ignored. Cannot be ignored. So if you're being ignored, by the way, the world has told you that you've not yet gotten to where you want to get to. So everybody knows my obsession with Disney. Read the Disney biography. In times of trouble, Disney always came back around to make the product better. Is it possible to fully grow into your potential, achieve your huge goals, and continue on that journey of the mind whilst, he used whilst, which I respect, while still enjoying getting drunk and partying? I didn't see that coming. Or are they completely mutually exclusive? So here's what I think about that. I am a big believer that if you're going all out, you are grinding it out, you leave it on the field. Because I'm telling you right now, Monday through Friday, if I am awake, I am working or working out, period. In fact, now, these days, I read while I'm working out, which I never did before. And we could do a whole episode on how I've made that finally work. But that process, one, requires that you love what you're doing. So let me just make that abundantly clear. I love what I'm reading about. I love what we're trying to build. All of it, just amazing. It gives me more energy than it takes away. Now, once you have that, the really wanting to actuate your potential and going after it every day and knowing I'm going to bed now because I have left it all out on the field. And I'm telling you, there are times during the day where I'm like, let me just look at Reddit for 5 minutes. I just for 5 minutes, I can't do it. It's so embedded in me to want to be the person that I say out loud, to actually be internally, that's when I go and I start looking at Instagram, replying to comments, doing research, whatever. So doing that, playing that hard every day leads me to, when I want to stop and go shake my ass, even if it's a random Tuesday, I'll go do that because I know how hard I've played every day. I know how much I'm willing to bleed for my goals. So this is not about emotional austerity. This is not about grinding yourself into the dirt. First of all, it's doing something you love so that as you're grinding and going that hard, it's something that you just want to do. Then, on the other side, because you're going that hard, that you just don't have the guilt that most people have when you take time off and relax and chill. So when I'm working, I am all the way in. And when I'm relaxing, I'm all the way in. Your talent and intelligence are not fixed, they're malleable. So you suck at skateboarding because you're afraid of pain. So the only thing you need to know right now, the point is not to avoid the pain, and you need to stop asking yourself, what's the least you can do to get good? And you need to start asking yourself, what's the most you can bear to become great? Once you understand, the whole point is to let the suffering and the pain harden you into becoming the version of yourself that you need to become in order to execute at the highest level to be world class at anything, and stop avoiding it, stop being afraid of it, and start understanding for what it really is, which is the thing that shapes you. So my entire youth, I feared pain. I moved away from pain. If something was emotionally or physically difficult, I avoided it. And I remember being in the gym one day and going, will you stop asking, like, what's the least you need to do to consider it a full week workout? Because it was like, could I stop now? Could I stop now? Could I stop now? And I was like, do you want the muscles, or do you want to like put on a show that you showed up? Like, you showed up, right? Like, because the muscles demand what the muscles demand. Like, you have to break them down, you have to push, you have to do more. Like, so it is purely a question of how much you're willing to bear, because there's never going to be enough. You could have always done more.
How receptive should I be to the opinions of others of me when I firmly believe I'm doing the right thing for myself? So I think it is always good to scan the opinions of other people, even when they are hostile, even when they are overtly meant as an attack, to really look at that and say, is there any truth in this? Here's the great news. When people attack you, they almost always go for something real. It is very rare that somebody tries to attack you for something that isn't real. So really look at that thing and figure out, okay, is there some truth in here? Is there something that I can address? Because if they're hitting you with something that's true, and that if you fixed, that you'd be in a more powerful position, then it's very wise to listen to the opinions of other people. Having said that, you need to think more about yourself, and you need to trust your vision more than you worry about what other people think. It's going to sting when people don't like what you're doing or don't believe in you or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you look at it and there's truth, take the truth, make an adjustment. Don't worry about anything else. It's just that's going to make you more powerful. If there's no truth in it and it stings, then just let it go and focus on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But at the end of the day, this is all being driven by the goal. So if something they say can help you get the goal, you're going to take it. If something they say hurts but can't help you reach your goal, you're going to ignore it. It's that simple.
Right now, between me and the person I want to be, between you and the person you want to be, there is a gap of skill set, and that's it. But once you know your mission, and once you believe that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to, then you can do the extraordinary. Now, for me, getting out of that space of being lost, of not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, it all came down to needing to earn credibility with myself in very small, incremental ways. This is me 60 pounds ago. And I knew if I was going to accomplish anything in my life, I was going to have to get control of my mind. Now, ironically, there's two ways to get control of your mind. Way number one is directly going to the mind, which can be very scary, can be very daunting, very ethereal. It's ephemeral, it's hard to grab onto, it's hard to touch. But way number two is through the body. And so I decided that my kung fu was going to be to get very good at developing my body. And in that process, I was going to learn about nutrition, which would allow me to help my mom and my sister. In that process, I was going to earn credibility with myself. And earning credibility with yourself is so important. Do it in micro ways. For me, just showing up to the gym every day was a micro victory. I said I was going to do it, and I did it. Now, you have to understand, I hate working out. So for all of you crazy people that get an endorphin rush from running, I hate you all. Running for me is like being stuffed into a meat grinder. There is absolutely nothing pleasurable about it whatsoever. So Whatever neurological thing you guys get that you've been blessed with, I have not been blessed with that. So for me, showing up in the gym sucks. Eating a bowl of ice cream is awesome. And so getting to a better place for me was a totally different journey. Thank you. And what that was just showing up every day and putting in the work. It was reading about human metabolism and understanding how what I eat impacts my body. It was earning a little bit of discipline every day, knowing that, well, I did it yesterday, I can do it again today. It was not eating something that I wanted to eat. And most importantly, and if you're taking notes, write this down, it was about changing my identity. Because at the end of the day, identity and values drive behavior. Amen. Preach. Identity and values drive behavior. So if you want to make a change, you have to change your vision of who you are. You have to begin telling yourself a different narrative. And the narrative you tell yourself about yourself is everything. And if you tell yourself that you're a scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma whose family has never accomplished anything, let me tell you what you will become. A scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma who never accomplishes anything, because that's what you believe. You tell yourself that story enough, and it will become real. But on the flip side, you could tell yourself a story of you're a learner. You learn faster than most people. You're willing to put in more work than most people. You're willing to read more books than most people. You're willing to spend an inhuman amount of time every day improving your mind simply by getting new ideas into the system. And that you will admit that you're wrong faster than anybody else, that you won't let your ego get in the way. And you tell yourself that story over and over and over. So when somebody comes and tells you how stupid you are, that you're just a kid from Tacoma, you go, you're right, that's amazing. Thank you for pointing out that flaw, because now that I'm aware of it, I can improve it because I'm the learner. And once I switched my narrative to being the learner, it didn't matter where I started, it only mattered where I was trying to go. And as long as I had that clarity, then I could execute because I believed I could do anything I set my mind to without limitation.
It's important to me to have the balls to look at the biggest problems we face as a society and say, that's my problem to solve, right? Obesity, metabolic disease, the slide towards ill health, however you want to categorize it, that's my problem. Like, I don't even wake up thinking that's my business partner's problem. That's my problem. Sure. Now, I'm working with my business partners because they're very sharp guys. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I own that responsibility.
I grew up in a morbidly obese family. So for me, it was, I needed to have a mission that was so big and so compelling that it gave me energy that I could show up every day and fight for people that I could think about. And there's an awesome quote often attributed to Mother Teresa that says, nobody will act for the many, but people will act for the one. So if there's someone you can picture, someone you know, someone you love, like, you'll go to battle for them. So I knew I'll show up every day and fight for my mom and my sister. And I know that they're gonna die too early if we can't figure out how to solve this problem of making food that people want to eat taste good. And so that became the mission of the company, was to end metabolic disease, and to do it by making food that people can choose based on taste, and it happens to be good for them.
That there is one truth that you have to burn into your nervous system. And I cannot remember where I first heard this, but your network is your net worth. The people that you meet, the relationships that you cultivate, they are going to be that next phase in your development. They are going to be that next relationship, that next partnership, that next thing, introduction that turns into something that allows you to scale and grow and get beyond yourself, because that is the thing about scaling. You will never scale if it's just you. You have no leverage. So you've got to meet other people that can get the ball rolling, that can introduce you, that can give you that key piece of information that you need to really go on and do something. So get out there, meet people, be yourself, let your freak flag fly, introduce yourself, stand super awkwardly next to somebody that you want to meet like I did tonight, and just say what's up, introduce yourself, tell them what you're up to. And if you want to be interesting, be interested. Ask them, find out what they're about, find out what makes them tick. That's the secret, that'll get them rolling, and then you can see if there's a real connection. And if there is, from that, something can build. So get out there.
So when I hear people where their reaction is to about a problem, like you and I were talking, you being Hispanic is working against you. Jason, you being an African American, it's working against you. Like, you're gonna have to go uphill. But now what? You gonna sit and complain about it? Because it won't help you. right? So if you have a goal, it's like, it does suck that women have to work harder to get to the same place that as a white male in America that I have to get to. But if it is true, if we're all going to accept that it's true, we can all sit there and go, we need to focus on the systems. Fair enough, and I'm glad that some people do that. The other option, though, is to say, well, I completely control me. And the one thing I will tell any human being alive right now, there is always room for the best. And once you're able, through your skills that have utility, to move somebody else closer to their goal, you will become a hot commodity, no matter what. No matter what. Okay? Think about the scientists. What were the scientists after World War II? Right before they were scientists for us, they were Nazis. But we were way happy to let go of that because they had crazy skills that we needed, right? So really what it comes down to is, what are your skills? Like, if you've got skills that can be used to build something beautiful, to do something wonderful to the world, to help people move towards their goals, that will excite the masses because they want that thing that you're going to create, that it's going to improve people's lives. But only thing that mattered in all of that was you got really good at something. And somewhere along the way, we lost that the punchline is, no matter what you do to the system, you as an individual need to get extraordinary at something. And so my encouragement to people is, go get extraordinary. Like, don't worry about whether the system is broken or not. We built Quest, $1 billion company, in less than 5 years, coming out of the Great Recession. So, what was it? In the Great Depression, more millionaires were created in the Great Depression than any other time in history. It's like, it just comes down to somebody goes, honestly, this is how I react. The system is too big and complicated. I'm too afraid to try to get caught up in fixing that. I'm too big of a chicken. There, I just said it. I'm too big of a chicken to deal with that. But I can deal with myself. I can go get extraordinary, right? So focus on that. Go get extraordinary. Go become the best of whatever it is you want to be. But go become the best of it and see how the world opens to you.
How do you completely start over in life when your past mistakes won't let go of you? All right, let's be really clear. You won't let go of your past mistakes. That is just the gospel truth. So you've got to work at letting those go. Now, the only thing that I've found that works is the following: to understand that they don't move you towards your goals. So for me, putting in, not quite a bright line, but really taking the Impact Theory belief system, which, by the way, you can download now by going to impacttheory.com, signing up for our newsletter, which I kill myself to make those newsletters amazing. So go there now, and one of your incentives for doing so is the 25-point bullet belief system. Those are the 25 things you need to do to your mind to make sure that you're optimized for success. One of those things is we only believe that which moves us towards our goals. Now, the reason that I put that into my own life is because I found that I would obsess over things that had happened in the past, either something that happened to me or something that I did, and you get into this really weird cycle that is absolutely obsessive. Because of that, it becomes hardwired. Because of that, it becomes easier to think about. Because of that, you think about it more often. It begins to just occupy a lot of cycles and crowds out your ability to get other things done. So I didn't know how to break out of that pattern because, like you, I thought it was something that was happening to me rather than something that I could control. And so I had to flip it and realize, okay, I'm in my life at the absolute foundational layer of everything that I do and believe. I'm going to make sure that it's something that moves me towards my goals. So if obsessing over the past moved me towards my goals, I would do it, but it doesn't, and so I don't. That is the only thing that I found, that I have a belief that is so powerful and all-encompassing in my life that I should do what moves me towards my goals, that anything, even something that I would otherwise be prone to obsessively return to. I use basically techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, where I will stop myself. It doesn't mean that I'm not having those initial thoughts, but it means that I interrupt those initial thoughts because it's not moving me towards my goal. I move that aside, and then I go focus on the thing that is going to move me towards my goal, which may be an empowering thought, to reframe that negative thing as something positive, to remind myself that I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm whatever I need to do in order to get moving and get going. Or just ask myself, have you learned from that mistake? And if you have, then go. You've got the lesson, move forward, nothing else matters. Cycling through it isn't going to help. So that is my advice. It is very doable. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Interrupt those patterns, make them habit loop triggers for something empowering.
I very much used to be task-oriented. I have lovingly said that what my parents imbued me with was a slave mentality. Keep my head down, do as little work as possible, and avoid punishment at all costs. That's how I thought about things, certainly how I thought about school. It's how I thought about a job. It's how I thought about most of the relationships in my life. It was about avoiding conflict. It was not about having strong core beliefs. It was really getting by, getting through life, like trying to, get through the week so that you can enjoy yourself on the weekend and love your family. And don't get me wrong, they had really amazing intentions and they wanted me to enjoy my life, but there were just things that they saw as inalienable. You just couldn't change them. And so that put me in just thinking about whatever was right before me. So, I need to get an A. Okay, this is what I'll do to get my A. And the grades is a perfect example because the real goal should have been learning. It should have been knowledge. It should have been me going, hey, the system doesn't actually really give me the things that I want. And so pushing back against that and trying to figure out what I need to do to actually educate myself. But I didn't do that because the task before me was get an A. That's just what you did in my family. You got good grades. And so cheating was a perfectly reasonable solution to that. Now, when I went to college, I realized, wait a second, this is supposedly the thing that I love most. I was studying film. So if I really love this, then why would I cheat? If I'm going to try to get a career out of this, again, why would I cheat? And if I'm taking on massive amounts of college debt to learn about this, why would I cheat? It doesn't make sense. And so in that, I switched from that task-oriented mindset to really thinking bigger about my goals. There were things in life that I wanted to achieve, that I wanted to accomplish, and I had to then reverse engineer what I needed to do to get there.
What you think about yourself is the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate thing. It's the ultimate reward or punishment. But what you think about yourself is at the end of the day the single most important thing. And so beginning to have a relationship with yourself, of sitting quietly, and this may be one of the reasons that meditating is so important, that you can actually sit quietly, think about who you are now, what you think about yourself, who you want to become, what price you're willing to pay to get there, and then actually going down that path to become that person. That, at the end of the day, is the thing that is going to bring you happiness and fulfillment. But you really have to think about who you want to become and to not be trapped by your past. But do that. Put time and energy into thinking about, what do I want to think about myself? And quite honestly, what do I think about myself right now? If you steer by that, it becomes very easy to ignore other people.
Everybody lean in nice and close. Self-compassion. It's probably the most important thing that you can do for yourself is when you fuck up, you need to forgive yourself. Okay? So that's really, really important. So, and I'll walk you through an example. About 20 minutes ago, I get really frustrated when people are trying to tell me something, but they're whispering. That redlines me in a way that I can't even begin to tell you. And so it just happened while I'm here live on camera, and I hold myself to a standard of catching my emotions before they rise up. Now, this has happened twice today. The first time it happened, I caught myself. Yay. The second time it happened, I was like, for real? We're doing this again? And I got very frustrated. So I was very disappointed in myself for that. But I need to be compassionate towards myself, forgive myself for that, get better, use it as practice, and remember that life isn't performance, it really is about practice. So once you can meet yourself with compassion, then you can begin to let go of whatever it is that's really your mindset. You can get back on track, you can refocus, and don't wait till Monday. And that's a mistake that everybody makes. So if you fall off the wagon, like if I fell off the wagon at 9:58, at 9:59, I'm back on the wagon. So I'm not waiting even for 10 o'clock. Like you literally do it right there at that moment, make it a part of your identity that you're the type of person that does that. So that is really, really critical.
Only execution matters. Burn that into your nervous system. Get a tattoo. Do whatever you need to do to remind yourself, only execution matters. Thinking about it, feeling good about it, those are awesome. But if you have a vision of something you're trying to do, become, whatever, and you don't execute against it, and I don't need you to want to build a big business. If you tell me you want to be the greatest parent of all time, then I'm going to ask you, what are you doing to execute on that goal? What are you doing? How do you define it? What are your deliverables? What are the metrics by which you're judging yourself? And by the way, if you don't want a grand goal, you don't need one. But then say, what I'm trying to do is get centered. I'm trying to experience happiness. Even that, you can begin to look at ways that you can improve that.
And as Bruce Lee said, if you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Even in the statement, you can see him making the choice about what to believe by saying that there are no limits, by taking something that other people perceive as a limit, as something that's stopping him, and saying that's not, it's a plateau, it's something that I can push through. And you see what he holds himself accountable to. It's not okay to stay at a plateau. It's okay to have one. Everybody has them. They happen. It's a natural part of the course of getting better, but it is not okay to stay there. And that is a choice. That's not something anyone can hand you. It's something you have to believe to the core of your soul that it is not okay to stay in a plateau, and it's that that's going to push you through. It's that that's going to make you get up and keep going. But first, you have to recognize that life is cause and effect. You have to recognize that that choice is a knock-on effect. You have to recognize that him merely saying those words out loud have a cause and effect. They change the course of his life, the expectations that other people have of him, expectations that he has of himself. And because he understands that he can control the outside world by first controlling what's inside, by changing his belief system to match what he wants to accomplish, he's then able to accomplish. What he did in his life had nothing to do with luck. It had everything to do with the demands that he made on himself. It had to do with when he got in a motorcycle accident and people told him he would never walk again. Not only did he walk again, all of the major accomplishments that we think about of being that man, they all came after. They came after he was told he was never going to walk. It came after he was told that he was never going to be able to do martial arts. But he did it. He did the grueling work of getting better. He understood cause and effect. He understood that if he chose to believe that he could never do it, that he'd never be able to do it. But that if he chose to believe that by working out he could get stronger and get better and get back to it, that he could. And that's what he did. So now ask yourself, is your life dictated by luck or cause and effect? Are you in control or is it somebody else? Is someone else in control or is it you? And if it's you, go build the life that you want, because there's nothing stopping you but you.
If you want even more Tom Bilyeu, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The times where you fatigue, they're not the times you're working the hardest. The times you fatigue are when you're being least yourself. You're not being true to who you are and what you want.